She said that a reason she kept messaging me in a friendly way for a while after this whole thing happened was because, and this is a quote, she felt lucky to be talking to a
Oh
verified
my
account, someone
god.
famous.
How do people who are this famous deal with like people like this? Like, wow, he's so famous. Oh my god, I get to hang out with him in real life. That means I'm so important.
I felt dirty in a way that I couldn't wash off.
Woman crying alert. Woman crying alert.
This is just not something I even thought she could be thinking, and I'm sorry that I didn't.
Stop fucking apologizing. It needs to be called out, like, directly, I feel like.
Yeah, I didn't send that text.
So the friend that he assumed had sent this text, which changed his whole perspective on everything, actually never sent this text. All right, guys, we're going to go over the GeorgeNotFound response. This is a follow-up response. So he made originally a response video. He then released the worst fucking statement I have ever seen in my life as a follow-up to that response, where he completely cucked out and basically bent over and spread his hole wide open when he faced the slightest pushback on his response. And then he released another follow-up response video after that, where he basically kind of backtracks on this written response that he made. So we're going to go over it. I pre-watched it, and personally, I felt like he cucked out pretty hard, but I'm not sure, because I know other people did like the response. We'll go through it one more time. I think I need to analyze it from the frame of like, this is a response for his gay Minecraft cuck audience. It's not for like, I guess, the normal average person looking into the situation. So I'll try to keep that in mind.
This is my response to her follow-up. Throughout this video, I'm going to be showing
Wait, does it not?
from
Okay.
some other people.
There's
just
not
for
full
context.
screen.
And just to make it clear, I don't want any hate to be sent to anyone, including these people. Here are the two tweets that I posted about this situation.
Okay, yeah. This was the very first response when he got accused. I'll be doing a very serious stream later today. This post is just to make that clear. I'm gathering all the information and evidence to share. I have never and would never break someone's sexual boundaries or assault anyone. Then the follow-up. This was after he posted his video response. Since reading Katie's newest post, my perspective on that night and my overall conclusion has massively changed, as she introduced new information that I was not aware of at all before. I have much more that I will say, but for now, Katie, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I really hope you can hear my words and try to understand that I did not have any bad intentions. That does not change the fact that you were hurt. I will be saying more soon. I'll give a little bit of context because it's been a while since I've talked about this. So basically, what happened was these people hung out at TwitchCon. So GeorgeNotFound had a giant hotel room with Dream, and basically this girl came over with a couple of her friends, I think, and her and George were sitting on a couch together, and they were cuddling for about an hour. And he was basically just touching her stomach, and they were flirting, were feeling each other. He didn't go any further than that. And then she seemed totally fine with it at the time. A year later, she comes out with this statement saying that was sexual assault, him touching her stomach. In her original statement, she completely leaves out the fact that they were cuddling for an hour. And she intentionally words this sexual assault allegation very vague. Instead of saying, oh, normally you would say yeah, he groped me, he touched my tits. He tried to reach into my pants. But no, she words it like, his hand went places that nobody's had ever gone before, and it was the first time anyone had touched me. So very misleading, making it sound like he was molesting her. But literally, it was just a hand right here. That was it. He was just, as they were cuddling, put a hand on her. And yeah. So yeah, that's the context.
Situation. These are now deleted, as I only made them to let people know that I had intentions to make a response. And I didn't want people to think I was just completely radio silent in the time that I needed to make those responses. First of all, I just want to make it clear that my tweet that I put out after my first statement wasn't somehow admitting to guilt or completely backtracking on what I originally said. My perspective...
That's what it sounded like, honestly. I mean, he just said... In that tweet, he just sounded like he cucked out super hard. He deleted that tweet now. It's gone, but him saying, oh, I'm so sorry, just makes all of his Minecraft 12-year-old audience that doesn't have any ability to understand what's happening. They just immediately see that and go, oh, see, he's admitting to it. he's admitting that he like sexually assaulted her. Which is why that sort of like cucking out response is not good. The same reason I think Illumina's response is shit. Because he's trying to like take accountability to get the heat off his back, but in reality it just to those people it looks like, you know, he's admitting some level of guilt.
Changed due to new information that Katie had provided. So now I'm just going to go over Katie's new statement and talk about what she had to say. So first, she acknowledges the texts that I showed about them talking about wanting to play the drinking games are real, but that they were from her friends. So this is reasonable. I only brought up that point because the implication was that it was kind of creepy of us and we were forcing the game on them.
There was more alcohol in the room, and we were encouraged to drink some more as they offered the bottles to us and insisted on drinking games, and already drunk, I obviously complied.
I hate this bitch so much. She is so insufferable. She's one of those people that words everything in the most dramatic way possible in order to like make you think that something really bad happened to her. But then you actually find out what really happened in the situation. It's like he touched her stomach while they were already cuddling. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, sounds good. She started having like a fucking breakdown crying about this situation in her statement. Like while she was like maliciously fucking dragging his name through the mud, being like, his hand went to places that no one had ever gone before.
And that his hand was inching further to places I hadn't asked for it to be. I felt dirty in a way that I couldn't wash off.
It's like, dude, you're such a fucking liar.
It was mutually
yeah, literally the Stella archetype.
Everyone was just having fun. So next she mentions that one of the reasons she wanted to hang out in our hotel room was because there was another creator that was in the room.
Oh yeah, she claims that she didn't want to hang out with GeorgeNotFound and Dream at all because there was going to be a different YouTuber, but this person ended up not showing up. So I was just stuck with Dream and GeorgeNotFound. Dude, I have a feeling that this girl is like desperate as fuck to hang out with the most famous people that she possibly can to boost her career or something, to like network or some shit. And I don't know, dude. I have like this weird, okay, I actually don't think that her making the allegations is an intentional career move. I don't think that she's doing it to get famous, but I do think that her like the reason that she thinks it's so severe or whatever is because she got like talked into it by her friends, which GeorgeNotFound mentions in his last stream. Those people do not like him and Dream. They have like beef. So these people found out that she hung out with Dream and GeorgeNotFound, and they basically like, she was like, oh yeah, you know, like I cuddled with this guy and it was kind of weird, and he like his hand was like on my stomach, and I kind of regret it because I was like drunk, you know. And they talked her into believing that she was full on like groped and molested. And so now she's like really traumatized because she fully believes that.
End up being there. Again, reasonable. I didn't know this at the time. There were people in and out of our hotel room throughout the whole event, so she could have potentially heard of anyone being there. When her group was on the way to the hotel, she was messaging me, bantering about whether or not I would actually be there or not. And that made me think that she wanted me to be there. But I don't know, maybe...
If you come to Dream's Hotel again tonight, I'm shooting your leg, so don't. Oh, awkward. I'm in his room now. Wait, so she even knew that he was going to be there, and she like intentionally... Well, the first night was fine, actually. They weren't cuddling or flirting or anything the first night, I think. They were just hanging out. But why... Doesn't this sound so like flirtatious to you guys? If you come there, I'm going to shoot your leg. Haha. Oh, awkward. I'm in his room now. You're not going to do shit. That is so flirtatious.
She didn't care, and she just wanted to see the other creator or just to be with her friends. Next, she shows our Instagram DMs, and she said that a reason she kept messaging me in a friendly way for a while after this whole thing happened was because, and this is a quote, she felt lucky to be talking to a verified account, someone famous, someone I had followed and watched for a while.
Oh my god, are you serious? Who cares? Oh, it's a verified account and I'm like a big fan. Oh my god. Dude, that is so... how do people who are this famous deal with like people like this? Like people that just see them as like an amazing spectacle. Like, wow, there's a very famous person right here in front of me. Oh my god, I'm talking to a famous person. Wow, he's so famous. Oh my god, I get to hang out with him in real life. That means I'm so important. It's like there must be so many of these types of people because we see this shit all the time.
Now, this is not something
I just
that
can't imagine the feeling of like hanging out with someone and like feeling like you're like getting along with them and having a good time. You're just having friendly conversations, seems normal. And then afterwards, you find out the only reason that they were interested in hanging out with you or whatever is because you're like super famous. That's so fucked. I'd be like, fuck that. I don't know. How do you even screen people for that in advance? Like, how do you figure that out? That someone is just like a clout obsessed, you know, weirdo. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about at all. I wasn't aware that she ever watched my content in the past. That was never brought up. This actually makes me feel pretty bad. The only reason she was messaging me was because I have subscribers or something. I would never want that. Again, the only reason I actually brought up messaging after the fact was to show that we were still friendly afterwards, and that I didn't know that she was uncomfortable at the time. She also confirms that we did talk on Snapchat.
See, he's like, this is the part of his response that I don't like. He's like, well, yeah, and now I found out that she wasn't comfortable at the time. It's like, no, dude, no reasonable person would. There's no way that you could possibly anticipate that. That's why, like, cucking out to this stuff is like, it's just so cringe, and it doesn't, we'll get into it more, but it just doesn't really give the best possible outcome to do that.
Snapchat, like I said, but also that nothing really happened there either. The next thing she talks about is the elevator. She said that we left at the same time and that her hotel room was on the other side of the hotel. So there was like kind of two corridors connected by an elevator room in the middle. So she's saying that she was just going past the elevator to get to her room. And again, this is totally reasonable. I brought this up because from her stream, the way that it was told kind of implied that I followed her out and then that she waited to take the next elevator instead of getting in with me while I tried to convince her to get in. I'll just play the clip of her saying this, so I'm not speaking for her.
I went to leave, and the older guy decided to leave with me. We walked to the elevators, where I didn't get on. He then pretended that the elevator was broken, and that he couldn't leave, telling me to get in the elevator to prove it was broken.
In my original video, I just want to...
Yeah, so that whole sequence of events is basically, she walked him to the elevator after the night was over, and he was obviously still flirting with her. He was still into her. And he perceived her to be into him too. And then he kind of pretended like the elevator was broken, like, oh, you got to come with me. You got to come back to my room, you know, kind of implying like, yeah, come back. But she stays outside the elevator and like doesn't seem interested. So he gives up and walks away. So in my opinion, it's a prime example of him respecting consent to that's like a really good amount of self-control, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Like, he gave up after a few times, like, yeah, I guess she doesn't want to, that's fine. And he just goes away. And she's trying to smear him as like some like rapist, but literally in her own story, he exercises like a lot of discretion with that.
Clarify this, that we left together because the night was over and that she was on the same floor, so she didn't actually have to take the elevator. And it seems like she agrees with this now. So next she agrees with me that she didn't mention...
Yeah, so basically he's talking about how right now he's like saying, yeah, see guys, her story is like inconsistent. She started off saying one thing and then I corrected it and she agrees with it. So this is this is him basically being sort of, I guess passive aggressive is not maybe the exact way to phrase it, but like he's calling her like a liar, but he's doing it really indirectly.
Online friend that I just met that day. She said she didn't mention him though because he left early and she didn't even know his name. And she shows a text message that she says is from him from the night where this happened. Where
let's go back a little bit. Okay.
She said she didn't.
The unmentioned friend. So this is a message that she claims is from GeorgeNotFound's friend that was also there in the hotel room with them. And this is basically what GeorgeNotFound made his second statement based off of. So he jumps the gun and just takes her word for it that this friend had texted her.
Didn't mention him though because he left early and she didn't even know his name. And she shows a text message that she says is from him from the night where this happened, where he says this. Obviously this is implying that he was kind of uncomfortable with what was happening and also that he knew her age despite just meeting her. And when I first saw this actually majorly changed my perspective on the night, because that would mean that my friend was also uncomfortable and somehow knew her age when I didn't. And
yeah.
Even though
So this got in his head Because he's like, I feel like this tripped him up because he's like, is that like weird? Does that come across as like predatory or something? Like, because he assumes that two people in the room are very uncomfortable after seeing that text message, right?
Said that he left early. My memory of it was actually that he was the last to leave, just before me and Katie left. Dream also came to me and mentioned that this changed his perspective of the night as well, because that would mean that he was essentially the only person that wasn't uncomfortable, and that therefore he should have known. This really concerned me. I kind of was just sitting there.
I don't get how these people get like psyoped into thinking that. Like, okay, so what? 18 and 26? Is that somehow like a super crazy drastic thing? Like, if you're over 18, who fucking cares? I don't get how they let this get in their head. Like, oh my God, it's so bad that she's only 18 and he's 26. That's so predatory and bad. It's like, no, we literally have laws for that reason. 18 is legal adult age. Like, come on.
They're like really thinking, how could this have happened? So I
I guess you could say something about like the alcohol, like them giving them alcohol is like what makes it weird. But these girls were like already drinking. And in fact, their story about whether or not they were drinking before has actually changed across their two statements.
And it turns out that he actually didn't send this message. I'm going to play a phone call that I had with him after I found this out, just because I think it gives more context.
What's up?
So there is a text that is claimed to be from you.
Yeah, I didn't send that text. I found out about it.
So the friend that he assumed had sent this text, which changed his whole perspective on everything, actually never sent this text. I don't know if we know the backstory to where this text comes from exactly. So George thought his friend had texted this girl that, and it got in his head like, oh my God, my friend even thought that this was weird. Wait, maybe I'm like wrong, and posted this gay apology saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize what happened to you. It's like, and now he calls his friend, and it's like, no, I didn't send that text.
When you sent it to me, but yeah, no, that wasn't me.
Don't you guys think like if you were in this situation, wouldn't you like contact the friend to be like, wait, did you feel like this at the time? Like, why didn't you say anything to me? I feel like I would totally do that. I feel like I would instantly reach out to the friend and be like, oh man, why didn't you like bring this up?
Got that from, I didn't ask them for any of their phone numbers or anything like that.
Can you kind of just talk me through your, like, anything that you remember from essentially the entire event?
A little bit before VidCon, I hit you up to hang out, and then you mentioned that you had an extra bed for your hotel. We got there around like 5 o'clock. We just went out to your room, like met up. I think it was towards like 9 or 10 o'clock. We met up at Dream Spot. Then it was just us three for a bit, and then you or Dream mentioned like just having some people come over and hang out. We were playing, I forget what the drinking was called. I think it was kind of like Cards Against Humanity, something similar to that. I didn't really notice anything out of the ordinary. I didn't really notice any...
Man, there's a joke that you could make there with the Cards Against Humanity thing about like, I don't know, molestation or something being one of the punchlines.
Any like bad vibes or anything like that. It was a little playful, maybe a little flirty. I noticed that you guys were just kind of like playing with each other and just like kind of cuddled up a little bit on the couch. Just, it definitely didn't seem like she was like uncomfortable, you know? It seemed like everybody that was there was having a good time, because I mean we were there pretty late, so I don't really follow like this internet stuff like that.
Yeah, so clearly everyone who was there in the room was totally fine with what was going on at the time. It was not weird. It was not uncomfortable for anyone. This girl is just straight up like lying. She's saying that like she was I was so uncomfortable, and like I didn't want his hand to go touch, my skin. He was touching my stomach and he was like playfully tickling me. That's so bad. But at the time, she was totally like into it, and they were cuddling together and stuff. She even like left out that they were cuddling intentionally to make him seem worse. So weird.
So I'm not up to date with what's going on online. The way she was explaining everything. I mean, at least to me, like it was not like that at all. To me, it kind of seems like a misunderstanding. There wasn't really a thought in my mind that like, oh, this girl like could be in some sort of danger or she's being like preyed on or anything like that.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, even though George is my friend, if I noticed him doing anything that I wouldn't want someone I'm friends with to do, then I would, I either would say something about it or not be a part of that situation.
Yeah.
She says that you left.
Obviously, everyone, like, you would never let your friend do some weird shit like that in front of you. If it was uncomfortable, you'd be like, bro.
Early on in the night, could you talk about that?
I think around like 3 or 3:30, I went to go get tacos. I think I got the party or something. For some reason, I couldn't believe I actually went and got tacos. I know for a fact that I got the tacos like extremely late. Like I had to go in their drive-thru even when I was in a car. Like I had to walk through their drive-thru and like order through their speaker. That was fun. I know I left.
Don't they not let you do that at most places? Or when they have to be in contact while cuddling? Yeah, literally. Dude, she made this dumbass argument saying like, well, actually, I didn't know that cuddling was like sexual at all. First of all, they weren't doing anything sexual. They were being like flirtatious at best. Yeah, they were just flirting. But she then acted like, oh, I actually cuddle with my friends all the time. And it's like, okay, I think there's something wrong with you if you're going around like cuddling with your friends. That is weird as fuck.
Or very close to that time.
And that's such cope. Like, oh, you don't think that cuddling is like a romantic, like intimate thing? Really? That thought has never crossed your mind? You just cuddle with everyone? You didn't realize it had any sort of like romantic like connection at all?
After 5, I texted Dream that I left open the deadbolt on his door. Right after I left, I texted him that to let him know. I think that was at like 5:10 a.m. Can genuinely say I had a really good night. That's kind of the impression that I got from everybody else too. Is like everybody was having a good time. Hopefully, you and Katie can maybe, I don't know if be friends is the right word, but I hope she feels better about it because I feel bad that she feels this way. But I don't know, it's kind of bad situation. It's just fucking wild that like this whole situation came from like that night. It was just like mind-boggling, dude. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't really believe it. Like half the shit I was seeing. Like as someone that was there, like other ways that I've heard it being like described, like from what I was like reading and watching online, is actually kind of insane.
So obviously,
yeah. So clearly, literally everyone in the room thought that there was nothing wrong. It was not uncomfortable at all. Even Katie herself, until a year later, she puts out the statement saying, I actually was really uncomfortable.
After this conversation with him, I was pretty confused. Maybe it was like a misunderstanding or something, because obviously they wouldn't just show this screenshot if it was fake, because I could disprove that pretty easily. So I had Dream reach out to get some clarification on it.
Is he trying to give her the benefit of the doubt?
I had Dream reach out to get some clarification on it. So they replied back and essentially just said that it was an accident and that Katie had gotten confused on who said what. And
she got confused on who said what. I find that really hard to believe that this was like some sort of accident. She basically just found a way to frame everything in the way that makes him seem as bad as possible. And she used it. She knew what she was doing. There's no way that this wasn't intentional, in my opinion.
I'm not trying to nitpick anything here. I just really think it's important to make sure that everyone has the full picture of the whole event as it happened, so that people can.
That's the other thing I don't like, how he has to add like all these qualifiers. Like I'm really not trying to nitpick. It's like, dude, nitpick. Who cares, dude? You know that her story is false. Like, why are you giving her this much credit? I don't even think this makes him look optically good, like, to his own audience, in my opinion. I don't know.
Can accurately form their own opinion. Anyway, the next thing that she talks about is the cuddling. She said, and this is a quote, "A lot of the touch was initiated by him, probably not realizing it. A lot of the cuddling he may have felt was personal, but it was just me being drunk. I do think a lot of the cuddling was initiated by me, but some of it wasn't. I was also drunk, but
yeah, I mean, that's normal. That's standard male-female dynamics, is like, of course, the guy's going to initiate most of like the physical touch and stuff. That's how it fucking works.
My impression at the time was that it was very mutual. She also says that, Quote, I didn't know cuddling was an invitation. I don't think just cuddling.
Wait, I want to read that. I didn't think cuddling automatically meant it was to turn sexual. I didn't know it was an invitation. It didn't turn sexual. It didn't turn sexual at all. Like, what is she talking about? She's literally acting like he just started like groping her.
I didn't know cuddling was an invitation. I don't think just cuddling is an invitation for anything. I only brought the cuddling up because it's something that she didn't mention at all in her original stream.
We sat on the counter.
It's like part of the whole like dynamics of what's going on. Like if you're being flirtatious and going back and forth, and then you like kind of start getting more touchy and start cuddling and stuff, that's like standard like progression of like physically flirting with someone. I feel like it's crazy that she's framing it as like, oh well, I just wanted to do this friendly drunk cuddle with no, and it's like to everyone else in the room she was flirting with him. She was just as much into him as he was into her. This is crazy. People are calling him a rapist because he cuddled with someone that regretted it a year later. Yeah, dude, it's actually insane. These fucking Minecraft Twitter, Minecraft YouTube fans are like the dumbest people in the world. They jump to conclusions over everything. They literally will always just instantly jump to conclusions that someone is a horrible person as soon as someone makes allegations against them.
And the older guy sat right next to me while playing. It was a little after that when I resorted to playing games on my phone when it happened.
And again, it's something that I think people need to know about to understand my perspective fully. The next thing that she talks about is that I said she got up and said...
Oh, here's another thing. She was pretending that she was so frozen in fear that she was just sitting on her playing games on her phone to mentally disassociate from the situation. But then we find out that actually she was playing a game with him, and it was like part of their like flirting. Like they were literally playing a phone game together.
Sat back down with me multiple times. She agreed with this, but said that the reason she did this is because, quote, I didn't want someone I had watched for a while or with a large following to hate me for denying to even...
Oh my god. Yeah, so she also doesn't mention that she keeps going back to the exact same spot. Like she keeps getting up to go do things, go to the bathroom or get another drink or whatever. And then she comes back and willingly sits next to him again, implying that she is totally okay with it. And her excuse is just, well, I had been watching him on YouTube for a while, so I didn't want him to just hate me for denying to sit next to him. It's like, what are you talking about? What the fuck is this? What do you think would happen in this situation? If you sit away from him, you think he's going to be like pissed off at you? What the fuck? This just doesn't make sense at all. I didn't want someone with a large following to hate me. Do you see how like clout obsessed she is? Like she thinks of everything in terms of like in the situation, in terms of like how famous the people she's around are.
What was he supposed to do? Like read her mind? Like
Yeah, exactly.
She's coming back willingly, but maybe she's lying.
Yeah. It's just fucking crazy.
Even sit near him. Now this makes me feel terrible. It's something that she mentions throughout, this power imbalance, but this is not something at all that I was thinking about at the time. She was a VidCon invited guest. She had a hotel room on the same floor as Dream. She was friends with my friends. And honestly, I just never imagined that this is something that she could have thought. And I do think that...
Nobody would in that situation. Like, it seemed like a mutual, friendly hangout where you guys were flirting with each other. Nobody's thinking like, oh, but this is might be wrong because I'm more famous than her. Nobody thinks like that. Who the fuck would ever think like that? Like, you're just hanging out with someone in person and having fun. You're not thinking about like, oh, what if they're scared of me? What if they're scared of me because I'm famous? That's honestly like a crazy egotistical way to think. And nobody fucking thinks like that.
That's my problem. I should have been aware of this, or at least the possibility of this being the case.
Here we fucking go, dude.
I am sorry. I feel terrible about it.
This is where it gets bad. I do not like that he kneels to this. Does this really make him look better to his audience? That he's like, yeah, I didn't realize the power dynamic imbalance, and I am sorry about that. It's like, why are you giving into this claim? Why are you like letting her use this against you? This just doesn't make sense. And it would be pretty easy to say, when I hang out with people in person, I don't think that power dynamics have anything to do with our hangout. Like, I don't think that had anything to do with it that night. I don't think it ever really does. And if I was aware that they were like a super fan and only treating me a certain way because they were a fan, like I obviously wouldn't proceed to like take advantage of that. It's so obviously not something that he was aware of or thinking of in any way possible. Like, and it wouldn't be for anyone. No reasonable human could be expected to think that.
I've never really thought about power imbalance at all, to be honest. In that room, I wasn't thinking about, YouTube subscribers or fame or power or anything at all like that. I just saw us all as friends, hanging out, having fun. Again, I'm not trying to downplay this by saying this.
I'm not trying to downplay this, guys. I just really need to be more careful about this.
Genuinely something that I'm going to be thinking about going into the future. This comes up again later, and I'll have more to say then. Next, she talks about how I mentioned that she stayed for hours even after her best friend left.
Co-obsessed people think like animals. They really do. They seriously do. Dude, I don't even think this excuse that she came up with, like, well, I didn't want to offend him because like he has more clout than me. I don't even think that is true. I don't think that was a thought that was crossing her mind at all either. Like, do you guys really think like maybe when you first meet someone, you're like starstruck a little bit, but like after a little while, right? Hanging out with them, they would just be another person to you, right? Like you've been talking to them, you've been doing stuff with them. It's like, oh, this is just a person, How would you still possibly be thinking like, oh my god, the subscribers, what are the subscribers gonna think?
She says that her best friend left throwing up in her hand and that she didn't know she had left, that she didn't make the conscious decision to stay. Now, this isn't my recollection of what happened. I remember Ghosty getting up to leave and Katie getting up to say goodbye to her. I also asked Dream about this, and he had the same recollection as me. We were all drunk, so I can't 100% say for sure.
I don't remember when they went over that part of the story. I honestly don't remember that part. Just in general, like I don't remember either person's statement about that. So she had like a friend that she was with too. Oh, that's another thing that I find kind of like about her story is like, oh, well, I had a friend, with me. And it's like, okay, if you were really uncomfortable, couldn't you have like communicated with your friend, or your friend would have like read you and been like, okay, this is weird. We got to get out of this situation. But no red flags, no alarm bells went off in the friend's head, because obviously it was very clear that they were just having a good time together.
What actually happened, but as per my memory, she was aware that Ghosty had left. Also, according to what she said, Katie and Ghosty were sharing the same hotel room together. So the obvious assumption is that they would probably leave together. The fact that she chose to stay, despite not really knowing most of the people there, gave me a pretty positive impression on how she felt.
Yeah, okay. I remember this part. Yeah, so her friend leaves. The friend that she came to the hotel room with leaves, and she wants to stay longer to hang out with George Not Found and Dream. So what's the implication? She's obviously not uncomfortable. If she was truly uncomfortable, she would use her friend leaving as an excuse to get out of the situation. Like, that is literally just inexcusable. There's no reason why you wouldn't do that.
About staying there. She says that after Ghosty left, quote, I put up with it in the moment because I thought it was the price I had to pay to be around.
What the fuck?
Again, like I said before, this is just not something I even thought she could be thinking, and I'm sorry that I didn't. Next, she talked.
Stop fucking apologizing for this, dude. Why are you apologizing? It's literally, it needs to be called out, like, directly, I feel like.
Talks about me being more touchy as the night went on, and says this, quote, you didn't know me, apparently you didn't even know my age, but you knew what I wanted. No, he assumed...
You didn't even know my age, but you knew what I wanted?
It's what I wanted, because why wouldn't I want that from someone like him?
He assumed because your body language? Dude, this argument of like, well, my body language could be like, isn't telling you necessarily what I want. It's like, dude, body language, especially when it comes to like romantic and flirtatious interactions, tells you a lot. That is like the most prominent, like, body language is the most important when it comes to like romantic, flirtatious interactions. Implying that like, oh, I might have seemed like really into him, might have been leaning into him, might have been cuddling with him, but actually that doesn't mean anything. I actually, he should have thought that I might not have actually wanted it. It's like, what are you talking about, dude?
it's what I wanted, because why wouldn't I want that from someone like him? This is
He assumed that it's what I wanted. Okay, he assumed that it's what I wanted, because why wouldn't I want that from someone like him? You really think you seriously think that that's his motive and his like rationale for like flirting with you is just because he's like, well, I'm just assuming that she's into me because I'm famous. What the fuck, dude?
It's kind of an evil way to think about things. Just having the opinion that you can do anything because you're famous or whatever. And I never once remotely thought anything similar to that. And I feel terrible.
Dude, if someone has that sort of like personality trait, I feel like you would just be like repulsed by them. It would not be, you would see that they're like egotistical and think and obsessed with like themselves being famous, and that gives them the right to do whatever they want. And you would be like, yeah, this person kind of sucks. I'm out of here. You would just leave. But obviously she didn't see that in him. She was having a good time.
Reading those words.
It is projection, yeah.
You think that about me. I would never think that I'm owed anything from anyone just because I have a YouTube channel, especially in an intimate context. Again, I'm really sorry for this, and it actually has been pretty eye-opening to me. And
like, there definitely are people who think like that, for sure. But this guy does not strike me as one of those people. I think of like people like fucking Logan Paul or like Jake Paul or some shit. Just people that are like, their entire life is like clout, having clout and staying relevant. Yeah. He seems like such a nice guy, bro. I feel bad. Yeah. I feel bad that he had to go through the situation in the first place, like all these crazy allegations. But he is sort of responsible for some of the backlash because of the way that he responded to it. Like in his first response, he basically like debunked everything, and then she came forward with like a response to his response, and he immediately caves and posts a statement on Twitter like, oh yeah, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry. His whole audience is going to think, oh, he actually did like sexually assault her, but he just wasn't communicating well. And like, even in this video, this is his response to that. Even in this video, he continues to like apologize for shit that he doesn't need to apologize for. It sort of weakens his arguments a little bit. Like, I think he did debunk things, but I don't think he should give this person like any credit whatsoever, just based on how fucking ridiculous this whole story is. Yeah, if you're apologizing like that, it makes you look guilty. Yeah, so like, I get why Minecraft community people do that, because they see other people respond to things and not apologize or take accountability for things, and get like really like they get like torn to shreds doing that. So he feels like, well, I should like admit some level of like I should take some level of accountability even if I disagree with her, because I did make her feel a certain way even if I didn't intend to or whatever. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's like this person is straight up maliciously lying about you to try to smear your name. I feel like you have to take it a little bit, you have to face it a little bit more head on and call it out directly.
It's just not how I've ever really thought about stuff.
He's in some kind of panicked flow state. Well, I don't know, dude, because this is the thing, is like Dream is actually pretty good recently, has been pretty good at handling allegations, and him and Dream live together. And so he thought about all this stuff and like planned it out with Dream before making a statement. He planned it for a few days before releasing his video, which is good. That's what you should do. Every single time, you shouldn't get emotional and make an immediate response. You should get all your ducks in a row and plan out exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to disprove it or whatever. So that just like blew my mind when he posted that like cucked out like second response. It was like, oh my God, like really, like you made this perfect first response, and then as soon as like you get pushed on it like a tiny bit, someone tries to disagree with one part of it, you're like conceding that like you made her feel horrible and stuff. Like,
and I don't really think you're wrong for assuming that I thought like this, because obviously there are people there that think like that. And
I don't think you're wrong for assuming that I think like this. Dude, this is what I'm talking about. Like, she is wrong for assuming that. What indicated to her that he was thinking like that?
Use that to take advantage of people. And it makes sense that if you think that about me, that you would hate me. But that is not who I am at all. And I just really hope that you can understand. Now, another thing that she mentioned that changed my perspective on things was that she showed texts from two of her friends the day after, checking up on her to see how she felt. She says, quote,
Yeah, the gaps in memory are being filled in by this Katie person. Well, he seems to remember it like pretty well in general, but how should I phrase this? Basically, like, I think that she didn't even think that anything bad happened immediately. I don't think that she was that uncomfortable. I think she might have like thought of it as like a little bit cringe, like a few days later, like, man, I probably wouldn't have done that like if I wasn't like drunk or drinking with them or whatever. I do feel kind of weird because I was like a little bit like starstruck, you know, by his fame. And and then her friends basically worked her up like, oh my God, that's so horrible. Wow. Do you know that like that's literally, wait, he touched you on your stomach? Wait, that's literally sexual assault. And then she turned it into this big negative snowball in her head. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, wait, they're right. Oh my God, it is sexual assault. But in reality, like, if it wasn't for that outside influence, she probably wouldn't be feeling like that about it. It's probably just a cringe regret more than anything else.
in the moment I was chilling, but thinking back on it, I'm sweating a little bit like, damn. I also don't know if I was chilling in the moment because I was drunk. And this is something that I was actually completely unaware of. I wasn't aware of it in the moment because
Okay. I was chilling in the moment, but thinking back on it, I'm sweating a little bit like, damn. Especially after verifying. So he knew I was 18, which, again, who fucking cares? I also don't know if I was just chilling in the moment because I was drunk. I don't know. I have to ponder on it or just forget about it because it's over with. Does that sound like a fucking sexual assault victim to you?
I was drunk. And this is something that I was actually completely unaware of. I wasn't aware of any uncomfortableness in the moment, after the fact, or even after Katie's first stream. I just wasn't aware that anyone had expressed discomfort until I saw these texts. I actually had the opposite impression just because we were all really friendly
Cookies.
afterwards still. Dream actually had a conversation about this with almost everyone that was in that room a few months later. One of their friends had actually tweeted about Dream, saying that he was inviting an 18-year-old girl back to his hotel to drink at VidCon, and was implying very negative things about Dream being a predator. So Dream realized this could have only been about Katie, because it was a pretty specific call out, but thought that it was just being purposefully misleading from someone that hated him. Dream actually had no idea as well that anyone was uncomfortable and assumed that
nobody in the room did at all.
Uncomfortable with Dream. He reached out to Ghosty about it, asking what this was even about, and did the same to others, including Katie. Now, I'm not going to be showing Katie's text with Dream, because at the time, Dream had told her that her messages and conversation would not leave their texts. However, here is...
Wait, I'm gonna look at these texts. I didn't know she was 18 either. It was only my hotel because it was big. So this is text with Dream?
However, here is Dream and Ghosty's conversation about it.
Dream and Ghosty.
I was never brought up or mentioned at all.
Wait, so is she saying that, like, Dream... Or is Dream saying that, like, he's basically denying that, like, he had sexual interest in Katie? So I don't even understand how that assumption would have been made. I mean, like, she was clearly, like, flirting with George, not Dream, right?
And also, when Dream makes fun of Harry for being ridiculous and making stuff up because nothing happened and we were all still friends, she said, exactly.
Oh my God. So her friend is literally like being like, yeah, that's crazy that people would think that, you know, that anything weird happened there.
She actually spoke about this on her...
I think this friend was the same one that came out with a statement to try to back up Katie as well.
Stream very recently. And I don't want to speak for her, so I'm going to play the clip where she clarifies these messages.
The only time that we had a conversation about anything that had to do with that night was obviously when the stuff with Harry happened. And he texted me asking if it seemed like anything had happened. And I, at the time, said no, because the conversation was not about George. The conversation was about him. And it was about the underage drinking. And it wasn't ever about whether or not Katie, you know, it was...
Wouldn't that be like a key indicator? Like, oh, did anything weird happen that night? Even if it's about a different situation, wouldn't you be like, if you knew at this point, like, oh, my friend was like actually uncomfortable with it, this would be like where you would bring it up, I feel like. I don't know.
It was always just about him and not George, which is why I said, dude, no, nothing seemed wrong, because he wasn't doing anything wrong, and I can stand by that. I will stand by that comment, and I said that in one of my posts that, you know, like, it wasn't him. That was our conversation. It was never about George. It was about him and the Harry situation. And it was about at the time had seemed that Dream was one who had taken advantage of Katie, and I said he didn't, and I didn't lie.
And Ghosty, I'm really not trying to use your words against Katie or you. I'm just trying to paint an accurate picture of our perspective of the night, and to do that, I kind of have to talk about everything that we knew. I don't think your words negate at all how Katie felt, of course, but they did affect how I perceived the situation afterwards. Even after Katie's stream, this kind of confused us, and Dream especially, because he thought that this would have come up in these conversations. Now, he was so confused that he was convinced that Harry was essentially being malicious. And he said this, and Ghosty and others there agreed with him. Ghosty even said that her friends should get to know him because she and Katie had actually had pretty negative opinions of Dream before meeting him. But
Oh my god. I missed this part when I first watched it. They had negative impressions of Dream before they actually met him. So already, like, that could kind of indicate that their friend group didn't like him or something, and they had like this negative idea of him in their head.
Their minds changed after meeting him at VidCon. This is obviously said about Dream and not me, but Dream looked at this as positive about the entire experience and shared this with me. It seems like Ghosty has changed her mind about this now, but I just think it's really relevant to how we felt about the situation as a whole.
Wait, so she's changed her mind about the entire night being good and fun and whatever. That's what I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying, right?
And to show this to you guys, honestly, over the last year or so, anytime a creator has kind of distanced themselves from me, I just assumed it was because of Dream. Dream had false grooming allegations against him, and I assumed that because of this and my association with Dream, people didn't like me. After Dream posted his video disproving these allegations, I honestly thought pretty poorly of creators that were still negative to me, as now I thought there was literally no reason for it. And now, after seeing Katie's follow-up, I realized that probably everyone knew about this behind the scenes. And I think that is insane. I was walking around with these people at other events or interacted with them in any way, and all the time they were just thinking terribly about me, and I didn't even
That's crazy. I don't know, dude. Don't you think, like, if you knew about something like this behind the scenes, like, it would get out, you would leak it? Like, if even if like the situation is completely false, if you had the impression, if you heard a rumor about this guy sexually assaulting someone, don't you think it would be like almost like a moral imperative, like, okay, I feel like somebody needs to get the word out about this, because potentially this guy could do more damage or whatever, so it should be talked about. I feel like at least like someone would talk about that, right? That's just kind of crazy to me that like all these people were supposedly being told about like Katie's experience with him or whatever, and nobody was talking about it to anyone publicly, but everyone knew behind the scene. I don't know, dude. I find that kind of hard to believe. If he's saying that if he knew that they were like being distant from him or something. Also, like, they were hanging out with him in person. Don't you think if you thought someone was like a sexual assaulter, you would like avoid them? If you actually thought that about someone, this part just kind of doesn't make sense to me.
No, and neither did any of my friends. If I'd seen Katie in person, I would have gone up to her normally. I would have assumed we were still friends. I think this is a massive injustice to Katie. It actually kind of makes me rethink a lot of my experiences with other creators, just looking back on it with this new information. And I don't even know who these people are. And even right now, after all of this information is public and out there, I still haven't had a single private conversation with anyone who knew about it prior to Katie's stream. This is all just to say that I didn't have any idea that there was a problem. And I wish that I had, and I should have. The last thing.
Yeah, that's another aspect of this is like, if this person seriously, unironically, in good faith, thought that something went wrong, then they should have been an adult and brought it up to him. Or even if you're too scared to bring it up to him, have your friend like bring it up or something. Like this whole thing just doesn't make sense.
To mention is her age. Like I said, I wasn't aware at the time that she was 18. I mentioned that they had come from an official after party. They were drunk, and I made the assumption that knowing how these events...
They were drunk, and I think they denied being drunk too. They originally said, oh yeah, we were drinking beforehand, and then Katie's friend said, no, actually we weren't drunk at all. But they were drunk. So their stories were inconsistent. That's weird as fuck. There was a list that someone made of the inconsistencies. Let me see if I can find it.
Run that she was probably over the age of 21, as they wouldn't have been able to drink in there otherwise. Now, they actually said that they drank somewhere else briefly before showing up, and that makes more sense. It is irresponsible of me that I made this assumption, and going forward, I will make sure to explicitly ask a person's age. And I'm sorry, Katie, that I did not do that for you. I also brought up how...
Oh my god, dude, who cares? Are you serious? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I should have known that you were 18. I should have known that you were a legal adult. I guess you could argue something about, like, giving them alcohol is irresponsible. Is that what he's apologizing for? Because it's like, at that point, they were already drinking. Like, also, like, fucking everyone drinks when they're under 21. Like, I feel like by the time you're 18, that's, like, plenty of time to understand how alcohol works. And, like, you know that if you're in a situation where you're not fully comfortable, you shouldn't be drinking around strangers that you're uncomfortable with. Like, I feel like every part of this story indicates to me that these people were having a good time, completely fine with everything that was happening, completely comfortable, and there was no weird energy or vibes. And they could have just left. They could have had an escape route if they really thought that something was weird about it. And them playing up the whole, like, 18 thing is just disgusting to me. Like, acting like it's an issue to be 18 and to hook up with someone who's 26. It's just ridiculous. Who cares, dude? You're an adult. You're both legal adults. And that's not even, like, that crazy of an age gap. Like, I would understand it if, like, a little bit more, even though it's, like, technically fine. It's, like, technically totally allowed. I don't think it's immoral by any means. But I understand why people see it as weird when, like, maybe, like, a 40-year-old is dating, like, a freshly 18-year-old. Like, but in this case, like, they're both young adults. Like, this is, like, a totally normal, average, natural age gap. I feel like there's nothing wrong with that.
When I was going back through the texts, I found a picture of one of them wearing a 21 plus age wristband, and I showed this picture. Now, this is from a group chat that I wasn't in, but Dream showed me this when I was making my video, and I figured it was relevant to why I was under the impression she wasn't 18. It is now mentioned that Katie wasn't actually the one that was wearing it, and it was just someone else's hand. So in these texts, they say, this is a quote, "Loose ass 21 plus wristband. We have a strat." Now, to explain what this strategy is for the people that haven't really been in a club environment or a place where you would get a wristband like this, essentially they give you this wristband to show that you are over 21 so that you can get drinks from the bar. These wristbands are made in a way so that once they're put on, they cannot be taken off without breaking it. And that's precisely why they're used, to prevent people from underage.
You guys see how they, like, Caitibugzz and her friend, like, made it seem like they were being preyed on because they were being given alcohol, yet they, on their own, would have been drinking anyways. They were drinking at this event. They figured out a way to sneak alcohol to get a 21 plus wristband. And then they turn around and act like, oh, it was so weird. They were, like, forcing us to do shots and we just felt all this social pressure to comply. Like, no, you fucking didn't. You fucking didn't feel like that. You would have been drinking anyways.
But clearly the security that gave the girls these bracelets didn't do a good enough job and didn't put it on tight enough. And this just shows that you can never be too careful and shouldn't make assumptions like I did. And I should have asked for her age. And I am sorry that I did not. This is not a mistake that I will make again. From Katie's statement, it kind of seems like she didn't believe that I didn't know she was 18. And
so weird. Like, why are you giving in to this point? This isn't a point against you at all. You could just say, like, yeah, it doesn't matter because she was an adult. And, like, yeah, I don't know, dude. So weird to cuck out to this.
Kind of thinks I'm just being dishonest about it. She said that she had it in her bio and that I DM'd her, so she was very confident that I knew.
Later that night, when I left, I received Instagram DMs from him. And in my Instagram bio, in bold, was my age, 18, confirming he knew how old I was.
For context, as you can see here in this screenshot, her age is actually in her display name on Instagram. And because of this, I was also pretty confused how I didn't know that she was 18.
Who cares?
It's literally in her name, not even in her bio. It's in her name. If it was in her bio, it would make sense to me because I could totally see myself going to her profile the first time I wanted to message her and just clicking message and never really going back to her profile. And essentially just any time I interact with her was just through the direct DMs where you actually can't see someone's
Does he
bio.
really? I just don't understand. Like, does he really feel like he needs to concede on these points or like come up with an excuse to why I didn't realize she was 18? Like, oh guys, it's just because like the name, you know, in the bio, like the way Instagram works, it's just like dude, it doesn't matter. Why are you giving them any fucking leeway on this? Why are you giving them an inch on this point?
Yeah. So I actually completely see where she's coming from, and it does seem kind of ridiculous that I didn't know. So because of all this, I actually started to look into this quite a lot because I know that I'm not stupid and must have seen it. But also in my head, I know that I didn't know her age, so it conflicts. So today I actually found out there are two different types of professional Instagram account. There's a creator account and a business account.
This is very Dream-like detective work, by the way. This is something Dream would do.
And for some reason, Katie's account was a business account instead of a creator account. We actually joked about this at the time through our DMs because I was actually able to book her as like a business, and I didn't really know why I was able to do that. And weirdly enough,
Dude, tell me this isn't flirtatious at all. Come on. Dude, there's definitely some like flirtatious energy with like all the interactions that we've seen between them before she came up with this narrative in her head that he's a groper.
Actually turns out that business accounts don't display special characters from a username in the username that's displayed. And if you don't know what I mean by special characters, basically just a character that isn't something you can type on a normal keyboard. And because her age and the smiley is a special character, it literally just didn't display it in her username at all. And you can actually see this in a picture that I sent to her during our messages, that her age is not displayed in her name. And you can also see this in the screenshots that I used in my previous video, that her age also isn't visible, despite the fact that her age...
Yeah, like, I know, right? Like, they have the vibe of, like, being at least, like, interested in each other. You know what I mean?
Was in her name at this time. But now, actually, as of today, her account isn't a business account anymore, so her age shows up again. And this is a screenshot I took today. Obviously, this wasn't a feature that I knew about at the time, and I actually had to do quite a bit of research today to work that out.
God.
So I hope that could kind of clear that up a
He's
little
like,
bit.
oh, you know, next time I'll just think about whether their Instagram account is a business account, and therefore whether I can see numbers in their name, because their name could potentially have their age in it. Like, nobody thinks like that. Why are you conceding? Like, I don't know, dude. I get that he's like trying to make up an excuse as to like why he didn't know she was 18. But you don't need to. You don't need to do this in the first place.
That maybe you can see how I wouldn't have seen it.
You're just like getting sucked into like, it's sort of like when like Hassan will debate someone and he'll suck them down like a line of argumentation that they just don't need to go down at all, and get them to debate something that's totally irrelevant to the conversation to get like some small like wins on them. It's like you're getting sucked into this line of like argument, this line of argumentation that you don't need to. She was 18. You were flirting with her and she was 18 and nothing even fucking happened. Like, why are you trying to like apologize in some way for this?
I do think that the age difference between me and Katie was a pretty big factor. I am older than her, and based on what she said, I do have more experience than her. She never went into the exact specifics either, so out of respect for Katie, I've chosen not to give any more details than she did, to make sure that I'm not airing out any information
and he's
that
like,
she's not comfortable with being known.
Oh my God. And he's like, I'm just trying to respect her. She just deserves a lot of respect. It's like, no, dude. She's maliciously trying to fuck up your career. She doesn't deserve any respect in this situation. You can be, sort of neutral, but to be like, I'm just respecting you, I totally just want you to like, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable with any of the information I'm sharing. I'm so sorry about this inconvenience of having to explain myself because you gave me fucking rape allegations. What? Are you serious, dude? Like, I don't know, you can't be this nice to someone who's doing this to you. It's pretty transparent, like what her motives are and stuff.
I have clarified that the furthest things went was under the shirt touching. She did say that the level of intimacy that we had together was the furthest that she'd experienced, but
that's crazy.
Me, it was quite tame. And when I say this, I am not trying to do
that's crazy. Do you guys believe that this girl, this like 18-year-old girl, had never like had a guy like physically touch her like on her stomach or something before, or like her shoulder or something. Like what if someone's like taking a picture with you and they put their arm around her shoulder? Is she gonna be like, oh my God, I was sexually assaulted, he touched my bare shoulder? Like, what the fuck? I'm losing sympathy for him. Yeah. I mean, we'll get into this a little bit, but there is sort of an argument for like him appealing and making this apology for his like really cucked audience, right? And I don't know, I could see it kind of working in a sense. Like I think the passive aggressive thing that we talked about earlier was like kind of a good move in that sense. Like he wants to seem like he's like taking the high road, and like he's like, oh, I'm not going to stoop to that level, you know? But at the same time, it making it really obvious that she's lying and manipulating the story intentionally, but without like directly saying that. But I don't know. I still think he was like too passive in this, and he definitely made things worse for himself, especially with his second response.
Value how she feels about this at all. I'm just trying to point out that we clearly viewed things differently. And this is something that I have learned from now, and I will be taking very seriously moving forward. And I am truly sorry, Katie,
I'm
for
gonna
not
take this-
realizing this.
Oh my
and
God.
Not taking this difference. And
Oh my
it is clearly
God.
something that is extremely important to you, and I'm sorry. Even after everything.
Okay, that could have been seen as a little passive aggressive too. It's clearly seen as something that's very important to you. Wait, let's go back. Let's listen to his tone again.
I'm just, when I say this, I am not trying to devalue how she feels about this at all. I'm just trying to point out that we clearly viewed things differently. And this is something that I have learned from now, and I will be taking very seriously moving forward. And I am truly sorry, Katie, for not realizing this and not taking this difference into account. It is clearly something that is extremely important to you, and I'm sorry. Even after everything I've just said.
So this age difference thing, like, he's basically, I just don't like how he's validating her feelings on this. Like, he's like saying like, yeah, you know, I get that this age difference really bothered you. It's like, that shouldn't bother you at all. Like, how does that bother you? You seriously think that this guy's like preying on you just because he's fucking 26 and you're 18, a legal adult? That just doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you giving into this?
Things would be very different if I could just say that I had asked her if she was comfortable and she had said yes. But the fact is, I never did ask this. As I mentioned, there are a lot of things that
no one does. No one does when no one asks, "Are you comfortable? Do you mind if I put my hand on your stomach? Do you mind if I touch your shoulders?" Like, nobody does that. That's not how flirting works. And it's pretty obvious that they were both flirting with each other.
Said she thought that I wasn't aware of, that if I had known would have changed a lot. And going forward, this will be something that I take into account in every interaction I have with anyone.
In every interaction that I have with anyone, I'm going to take into account the possible age dynamics. Yeah, if someone who's 19 and a half years old wants to be my friend, I'm going to do a full-on interview to make sure that they are mentally stable enough and that they aren't feeling disadvantaged compared to me in terms of their age. It's like, who thinks like that? Why are you like why are you like validating this idea that like this age difference is somehow affecting the way these people behave? It's not at all. And it's not affecting the way you behave, obviously. You're not like seeing this as like a fresh young person that's easily influenceable. You just see them as like a friend that you're hanging out with and like flirting with and getting along with.
I'm sorry, Katie, and I'm sorry for how this will affect you going forward.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry that everything got to this point, but I just hope that after hearing my perspective, you can understand that I never had any bad intentions and never meant to hurt you. I think
you didn't do anything wrong. Why are you saying sorry? Like, why are you apologizing for this?
I think that is essentially all the information that I can add to the situation. After her first statement, I actually disagreed a lot with how things were portrayed and was pretty confused by a lot of the details. But her most recent...
Because she just straight up was completely misleading and lying intentionally to make the situation seem a lot worse than it actually was.
Response made things a lot clearer to me, and now I do think we agree pretty much on the order of events. We just don't necessarily agree on my intentions, but again, I do really hope that her seeing this can help with that. There are actually a couple of other things that I wanted to mention before I end this video that are not at all as important as anything else I've said before this, but this seems like the right time to...
He thinks that, like, or she thinks, he's saying that she thinks that his intentions were bad, right? But in the moment, she didn't think that at all. Because if she could read that he had, like, bad intentions and he was, like, trying to prey on her, she would have done something about it.
Address other concerns that people have had. The first thing that I want to talk
And she
about
wouldn't have, she certainly wouldn't have been flirting back with him. Like, if she really was reading him as, like, being, like, creepy and, like, preying on her, she definitely wouldn't be able to be that comfortable and into him back. Like, that just doesn't make sense at all.
Comment that I made about Punz's girlfriend at the time, Andy. I was in a call with Punz and Andy was in the shower, and it was known that we could hear Andy as we had brought it up previously within the call.
So this is an unrelated incident that people have brought up recently about him. I'll just let him explain it. Yeah.
Very sexually with Punz, essentially complaining that Punz wasn't leaving the call to go have sex with her in the shower. I don't remember the exact quote that I said, but this is what Andy quotes me saying. If you don't go in the shower and have sex with Andy, I will. I do remember saying something along these lines, essentially saying, come on, Punz, go have sex with your girlfriend who's begging you to go have sex with her in the shower, or someone else will. But I
My God, that's honestly really funny.
do understand how this could be disrespectful, and that was not my intention at all. Knowing how she felt after the fact, I do feel bad, and I am sorry to both Punz and Andy for this comment. My friends, including Punz, we often say ridiculous things, and that's just our type of banter. If anyone ever said something to me about me making them uncomfortable, I would obviously do my best to try avoid making them uncomfortable. But Andy wasn't really one of my friends, so it makes more sense that she doesn't really know that's the type of way that I joke around, and I hope that she understands.
I'm just picturing this situation, like he's on a Discord call with like his friend, and you hear his friend's girlfriend in the background saying like, come fuck me in the shower, come fuck me in the shower, and then George just goes, hey, you better go do that, or else I will go fuck her. It's so funny
that I didn't mean any harm by it. Finally, something that I've wanted to talk about for quite a long time but have never done is the Technoblade charity stream situation. People were upset that I was playing soundboards during the beginning of the stream. For context, this event wasn't intended to be serious or sad. It was a for fun event and to celebrate the memory of Technoblade. A narrative that was massively spread was that I played this soundboard during Technodad's speech. But that actually was not the case, and I had played it during a time where all the creators were in a call just talking to each other before the speech had even started. I actually called Technodad a few days after the event because I wanted to make sure that he wasn't upset or uncomfortable with anything that I had said. And we discussed it all. He told me that he didn't have a problem with what I did and that the public reaction was actually pretty crazy to him. And then he invited me to the next year's event. Another thing that people criticized me for is that I didn't...
I saw this clip. Basically, like, this event is in memory of their friend who died, Technoblade. He just plays like a soundboard when he's like before the speech or whatever the fuck. And from what I hear, I'm not familiar with this Technoblade person at all. I didn't really watch him. He loved like fucked up jokes like that, and he would joke about like he would joke about how he had cancer and shit with them, and like he enjoyed the fucked up dark humor. So people acting like, oh, this is so disrespectful to like play a soundboard at like this event in memory of his death. It's like, dude, he would have wanted that. I feel like that's the impression that I get, at least.
Donate to the charity. But again, this actually...
I would absolutely want people to meme at my fucking funeral or like memorial event. Like, I feel like that would be hilarious. That's like exactly what I would want.
The case. I donated $2,000 to the charity after the event, but I did do it anonymously.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. People were accusing him of not donating to this event at all, but it turns out that he did donate just anonymously. So he donated because he actually cared about the event and he didn't want to be seen as doing it for any sort of positive validation or anything, which is based. This is the based way to do it because you actually care about the thing at hand and you don't just want to farm some sort of like moral capital from making a donation in your name publicly, but I genuinely just want to support the thing. That's based.
So obviously I'm not surprised at all that people don't know this. I donated anonymously because I just didn't really want to make it about me, and just donated because I wanted to. Obviously, there was no actual requirement for the creators in the event to donate to the charity at all, and them just streaming to their audience and incentivizing the viewers to donate was enough. Now, I did this specifically by showing the donations live as they came through on my stream. And because of me doing this, over 2% of the donations actually contained my name within the donation message. So I think it's pretty unfair to come at me for not donating to the charity when I was clearly making a big effort to get my viewers to donate. And beside that, I did donate $2,000. I just wanted to mention this. I know it's kind of way off topic compared to the other two things that I've mentioned in this video, but it is something that has been constantly brought up since it happened as a way of showing that I'm a bad person. So I wanted to clear that up. And that's pretty much everything I have to say. So I hope you can understand. And yeah, bye.
So yeah, overall, I guess, yeah, like I said, like just my main gripes with it are that he gives in to these like stupid arguments against him, like saying like, oh, I didn't really know she was 18 and I should have done a better job like checking, and I'm going to do that in the future. Or him saying, you know, the power dynamics I didn't even consider at the time. And, you know, I'll be thinking about how the power dynamics are at play every time I have an interaction in the future. It's like, dude, you don't need to be saying that. You don't need to do that. No reasonable person would ever be expected to do that. This like made up issue of like, she's freshly 18. By the way, she was 18 and a half at that point, and she pretended like she was freshly 18 to somehow make him seem worse. You just don't need to concede on this at all. Like, she's a legal adult. That's the end of story. Legal adult, making her own decisions, drinking on her own. You have no responsibility to consider that someone 18 might be feeling weird about the age gap between you. That's on them. That's on her to tell you. If she feels weird about it, like, how old are you? How much? Oh, you're that much older than me? Oh, okay. I'm not really, you know, comfortable with like blah, 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 blah. And he would have backed off. But he had no indication that that was an issue at all, because no reasonable person would. Yeah. So I don't know. So I will say, watching it a second time, he did do a pretty good job of like bringing up shit and disproving a lot of the things that she said without seeming like super aggressive. And like, I don't think he needs to come across as super aggressive. Like, he doesn't need to be super confrontational and like, this bitch is a fucking liar. Like, obviously that's not reasonable. People would just see him as being mean or rude or whatever. But he didn't really need to cuck out as much as he did, in my opinion. He could have made his point without conceding these like stupid things. Basically, I feel like it's not good for his audience to have these ideas given merit. Like, I think if you tell these people like, yeah, you know, I should have really checked if she was 18, that they're just going to have that in the back of their mind, that now an 18-year-old can't consent properly or something. That's what your audience gets from this. Or like the power dynamics thing. Like, that is just going to be, both of those things are just going to be used against other Minecraft YouTubers in the future. And I feel like it would have been just much better for him to address this head on, being like, you know, yeah, I didn't know she was 18, but it didn't matter because she was 18. And that's a legal adult. And I don't think anything that we did was wrong or immoral because of the age gap. I don't think that matters at all. And I don't know. I would have respected that a little bit more. Yeah. I just think that between the two responses, the two video responses that he made, his first one was much better. I think his first one, he basically just addressed all the claims and disproved what he needed to. And he did it in a way that was also not rude, not confrontational, but made her look stupid because he gave a ton of context that we didn't know before. I think if he had kept up that tone with this video, it would have been great. But obviously, it's not like a horrible response. I think it's like fine. I just really cringe at the fact that he gave in to like these two like points that he didn't really need to at all. Be sure to sub to my channel, GeorgeNotFound's, if you want to watch more videos like this in the future, or if you want to catch one of these streams live. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.